Today we're exploring one of the most profound topics we can all relate to, food. Now, if you're thinking this is going to be about what to eat or what to not eat, let me stop you right there. We're going to explore a much deeper relationship with food, one that goes beyond our plates and calories, transcending into something spiritual, cultural, and incredibly personal. We're going to explore food as a connection to our heritage, a pathway to our intuition, and a tool for reconnection with our true selves. So grab a warm drink, find a comfy seat, and settle in. Today's conversation is about learning to honor food, not just as fuel, but as a part of our journey back to ourselves. Welcome to How to Lose the Weight, the podcast for women ready to stop waiting for someday and live life now. I'm your host, Holly Toscanini, and I'm here to help you break free from perfectionism, self-doubt, and the someday mindset. Together, we'll dive into real conversations about self-trust, empowerment, and living authentically. If you're ready to reconnect with your intuition and step into your power, you're in the right place. Let's lose the weight and start living fully right now. Hello and welcome back to How to Lose the Weight. I'm your host, Holly Toscanini. Today's episode is all about reclaiming our sacred connection with food. I want to start by recognizing food is a bridge that connects us across cultures and generations. Think about those moments at the table, surrounded by family or friends, sharing a meal that's more than just food. It's tradition, memory, but also love. For many of us, food is our first introduction to our heritage. Family recipes handed down through generations don't just fill up our plates, they fill the spaces between us with stories of the past and ties to our ancestors. When we gather to enjoy a meal steeped in these memories, we're doing more than eating. We're honoring the threads of history and identity that bring us together. In every culture, food tells a story. The Japanese tradition of honoring seasonality in sushi, the Moroccan art of communal tangine, and the French notion of terroir are more than culinary practices. They're expressions of values, identities, and histories. This is the magic of food. It has the power to take us beyond ourselves, inviting us into a shared human experience that's as old as humanity itself. Did you know there are studies that show that sharing food can reduce prejudice and even foster unity? And by celebrating food as this cultural bridge, we're actively participating in an act of respect and acknowledgement, recognizing the beauty in every dish, every spice, and every technique. Imagine the richness we gain when we honor food as this connector between people, traditions, and stories. You see, food is our first introduction to different cultures, be it through a grandmother's secret recipe, a community celebration, or even a meal at an authentic restaurant. The beauty of it lies in its universality. Everybody eats, but it's also in its rich diversity. Just think about the myriad of spices and cooking techniques and flavors that different cultures have given us. It's like a global tapestry woven together through countless shared meals. And what's so fascinating is that food can be a starting point to broaden our worldviews. When you dig into a plate of sushi, you're not just enjoying raw fish. You're tapping into a Japanese tradition that places high value on seasonality, craftsmanship, and the very aesthetics of eating. Or when you share that pot of Moroccan tangine with friends, you're partaking in a communal experience that goes back generations, and it reflects that country's history of hospitality and diversity. See, food is far more than sustenance. It's a powerful thread that weaves together our stories, our histories, and our communities. And when we recognize food as this cultural connector, we open the door to deeper conversations about things like equity and justice. The foods we enjoy often carry the legacies of marginalized communities whose contributions are overlooked and undervalued. And by exploring the roots of our favorite dishes and the cultures they come from, we begin to see the systemic issues tied to labor, access, and representation in the culinary world. This understanding challenges us to think critically about the ways we honor or fail to honor the people and traditions behind what nourishes us. Now, this is about more than just cuisine. It's about respecting the origins of food. It's also about understanding the labor that goes into it and giving credit to the cultures that have nurtured these traditions for centuries. It's about recognizing that, in a way, when we share culturally significant foods, we also share the story of that people. And in this recognition, we find opportunities for greater respect, understanding, and unity among diverse communities. Now, from a psychological standpoint, sharing food from different cultures can actually reduce prejudice and promote inclusivity. There was a study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology that found that experiencing ethnic foods led to more positive attitudes toward that ethnic group, proving that food can be a potent tool for social cohesion. So, whether it's a homemade curry that links you to your Indian heritage or a holiday meal that connects you to your cultural roots, never underestimate the power of food as that cultural bridge between each one of us. It transcends barriers, it tells stories, and it fosters understanding. But above all else, it brings us closer as a human family. Now, this universal power of food goes beyond its ability to nourish our bodies. It nourishes our spirits as well. And it's not just about what's on the plate either. It's about the emotions and the memories stirred by the flavors and the smells and even the rituals. Food then becomes a vessel, carrying pieces of our heritage and connecting us to the stories that shaped us. This is where food transcends being a mere meal and becomes that bridge to our soul memory and identity. For many, dishes like tamales or matzo ball soup aren't just food. They're traditions filled with meaning, resilience, and love. And in kitchens around the world, stories are shared, laughter is heard, and traditions are passed down, all through the simple universal act of making and sharing food. Food binds us to those who came before us. It also binds us to the people that are sitting at the table with us now and to the generations that will come after us. It's our heritage on a plate. It's a reminder of who we are and where we come from. Food has the power to help you reconnect with who you are. I mean, the tradition of breaking bread together isn't just about the bread or even the oven it's baked in. It's about sharing, connecting, and building community, even within your own family. And there's science to support this too. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior shows that families who eat together experience lower stress levels and greater emotional well-being. Meanwhile, a study from Oxford University showed that communal eating can strengthen both family bonds and community connections. Think about that. What's on your plate isn't just nourishing your body, it's also feeding your emotional and social health. Yet, despite this deeply human connection to food, so much of diet culture has conditioned us to fear it or to see it as the enemy. In this episode, I want us to reclaim the powerful connection we have with food. Food can be a way of truly listening to our bodies. It's a form of communication that goes deeper than words. And by embracing mindful eating, we're making the choice to honor our body's signals, preferences, and needs by paying attention to what feels nourishing and right for us right now. Studies from the Indiana State University reveal that mindful eating not only helps us break free from emotional eating patterns, but also reduces stress and brings greater joy and satisfaction to the simple act of eating. Think about it. How would your relationship with food change if you allowed yourself to truly enjoy it without guilt or shame? Now, for those of you out there that are journalers like I am, I think this is a great prompt to kind of bookmark and use in your journal later. So I'm going to repeat it. How would your relationship with food change if you allowed yourself to truly enjoy it without guilt or shame? It's a powerful question. And many spiritual traditions embrace food as a sacred part of life. See, when we honor food as more than just calories or fuel, we engage in a form of reverence, a practice of gratitude and respect. It's a small but profound shift that brings us closer to our intuition because it allows us to sense our body's needs and preferences more clearly. This deep connection to food as something sacred opens the door to a more intuitive relationship with eating, one that's really grounded in listening, honoring, and trusting our bodies. When we approach food with this sort of this sense of gratitude and respect, we naturally begin to tune into our needs and preferences, which creates space for a more mindful and intentional eating experience. This is really the essence of intuitive eating, which isn't some like fleeting new age trend, but a practice deeply rooted in cultural wisdom and tradition. And at its heart, intuitive eating invites us to listen to our bodies, honor hunger and fullness, but also, and I'm going to say more importantly, it allows us to rediscover the joy of food free from guilt or judgment. It's a universal concept found in cultures worldwide, from the Ayurvedic concept of the Anyi, which teaches us to eat when our digestive fire is really strong, to the Buddhist practice of mindful eating. There's liberation in reclaiming food from diet culture and honoring it for its sacred place in our lives. And here's the beauty of intuitive eating. It respects the foods that make up our cultural heritage. Whether it's grandma's lasagna, holiday tamales, or a favorite dish from your own cultural roots, intuitive eating reminds us that these foods have a place in our lives, not just as nourishment, but as an expression of who we are. And science backs this up. Studies have shown that intuitive eating is linked to better mental health, and it can reduce disordered eating patterns. See, this isn't about control. It's about trust, a trust in your body's wisdom and in the food that has nourished your family for generations. This trust in your body and in the cultural foods that have sustained families for generations is powerful, but it's a trust that diet culture has worked so hard to undermine. Patriarchal diet culture has long sought to shame and vilify many of the foods that hold deep cultural and emotional significance. Think about how many times you've been told that carbs like rice or pasta are bad, or that the traditional dishes that you and your family love are somehow off limits. But these foods, like rice in Asian cultures or corn in indigenous communities, are far more than calories or macronutrients. They are expressions of history, culture, and life. And diet culture has tried to erase the connection we have to these foods, making us feel like we've got to choose between honoring our heritage and adhering to these quote-unquote health standards. Intuitive eating challenges this by treating all foods as morally neutral, inviting us to enjoy the variety and richness of our cultural dishes. It's about balance, joy, and allowing our bodies to guide our choices without guilt or fear. The relationship we share with what we put on our plate is really nothing short of transformative. The food we eat has the capacity to heal us, to rejuvenate us, and even inspire us. In many traditions and holistic practices, like Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and Native American medicine, food is viewed as more than just fuel. It's considered a form of medicine. In these traditions, food isn't just about the nutrients or calories it provides, but also about the energy it imbues. The very act of growing, harvesting, and preparing food is believed to influence the energy that it carries. Let's not forget how food is intricately connected to our emotional well-being, too. Food isn't just fuel for the body, it has a direct impact on our mood and our emotional states. Have you ever noticed how a piece of dark chocolate can bring that little bit of comfort when you're feeling down? That's because food can trigger the release of neurotransmitters, the brain's chemical messengers that influence how we feel. For instance, dark chocolate contains compounds that can stimulate the production of serotonin and endorphins, which are often referred to as feel-good chemicals. Now, these brain signals can lift our spirits, reduce our stress, and even enhance our feelings of happiness. It's a powerful reminder that food doesn't just nourish our bodies, but can also be a source of emotional support, helping us to manage moods and create moments of joy in our lives. So food can be so much more than a source of nutrition. It can be a simple, everyday way to nurture our emotional health. Now, this emotional and physical connection to food naturally leads us to a deeper, more spiritual perspective on eating. When we recognize that food impacts not just our bodies and minds, but also our sense of connection and purpose, we open the door to seeing it as something sacred. Spiritual thinkers have beautifully articulated this idea. The Dalai Lama reminds us of the profound interconnectedness of life when he says, "It is essential to know that to eat food is to consume life, to be aware and responsible for our part in the circle of life." This wisdom resonates deeply with what we've been exploring: food as more than fuel, as a source of gratitude and reverence. And similarly, Eckhart Tolle highlights the importance of bringing awareness to the act of eating, suggesting that even a simple moment of gratitude can transform a meal into a spiritual experience. These perspectives invite us to think about food not only as a source of nourishment, but also as a way to ground ourselves in mindfulness and connection. Now, I'm going to encourage you to take some time to explore the foods of your own lineage and upbringing. What are the traditional dishes that your grandparents made? Are there particular foods that have spiritual or emotional significance for you? See, reconnecting with these foods can be a profound act of self-discovery, a way to deepen your practice of mindful, intuitive eating by grounding it in the very rich soil of your own history. So let's just take a moment and talk about some practical ways to put all this into action in your own life. Here are 5 ways you can honor food as part of your intuitive journey. First, before each meal, take a moment to breathe. Express gratitude and acknowledge the journey of the food on your plate. Second, reconnect with your roots by cooking a family or cultural dish this week. Savor the flavors, the aromas, and the memories it brings. Third, regularly tune in to your hunger and fullness cues. Intuitive eating is a practice of listening, of honoring what your body needs at any given moment. 4, remember, food isn't good or bad, so release any labels that make you feel guilty and give yourself permission to enjoy food in all its forms. Finally, 5, make time to eat with loved ones, to share stories, and to make food a joyful shared experience. Community and connection are as much a part of eating as taste or nutrition. So as you think about your next meal, I want to encourage you to go beyond just what you need to fill your stomach. Consider what will nourish your soul, elevate your spirit, and bring balance to your emotional state. And allow your choices to be guided not just by taste and hunger, but by how the food makes you feel in your deepest self. From the universal experience of gathering around a table to understanding food as a bridge to our heritage and culture, we have explored the deep well of spiritual nourishment that food provides. We've also explored how the principles of intuitive eating can amplify these meaningful connections with food, liberating us from the constraints of diet culture and guiding us toward a more authentic and holistic sense of well-being. Now, as we end today's episode, I'd love to leave you with this beautiful quote by Virginia Woolf. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. You see, food isn't just fuel. It's a love offering to our bodies, a tribute to our culture, and a sacred ritual that brings us closer to our true, authentic selves. So the next time you sit down to eat, consider it more than just a meal. Think of it as nourishment for your spirit, a bridge to your heritage, and a reminder of the inherent wisdom within you. Now, if you have a story to tell about a meal that has connected you to your heritage, healed your soul, or simply brought you joy, I'd love to hear it. You can send me a message at my Instagram account, at Holly Toscanini, or you can simply email me at holly@hollytoscanini.com. I'd love to hear your narratives, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a review, subscribe to the podcast, or even share it with family and friends. Let's make room at the table for every meal, every memory, and every part of ourselves. Until next time, may each bite be a step closer to embracing your whole beautiful self. I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to How to Lose the Weight. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you found value in this episode, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It really helps the show reach more women like you who are ready to step into their power. For more insights and inspiration, follow me on Instagram at Holly Toscanini or visit hollytoscanini.com. Until next time, remember, stop waiting and start living.